Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Mortis FM, a Star Wars podcast. I am Grayson, one of your hosts.
I am Cole, the other host. Grayson, it's been some time, some period of time, I think.
Yeah, 2 months to be precise. I think it's been 59 days as of recording this.
Oh, God. Oh, wow. Well, we've got a lot to catch up on. Thank you, everyone, for waiting.
Yeah.
Very, very pleased to be back, though. What do you think? What do you think we're going to talk about today? What are we going to do to catch ourselves back up to speed? And by back up to speed, I simply mean just get the ball rolling again.
Get the ball rolling, yeah. So, yeah, we've been busy. Cole has been educating himself, going to school, like the good man he is. I've been busy.
Go
to school. If you so desire. If that's not your path, hey, that's fine. But that's Cole's path.
If you desire to go to school, go to school.
Yeah. But yeah, we've both been busy taking some time off, especially after, let's just face it, kind of the cataclysmic, volatile nature of the fandom after the Acolyte wrapped, which was not fun. It definitely generated some burnout. I've talked to some friends myself that everyone kind of feels similarly, but I have, and I think you have as well, the time away has been good just to, not that we didn't want to talk about anything, but like, it's just, we kind of needed a break, you know? Like,
I think it got to a point where it was just a little too much.
Yeah.
And we just kind of needed a break. And also, as Grayson had mentioned, I had just started a new semester, which I'm still getting acquainted with, lots of work day in, day out. And you know, Grayson himself has had a lot of stuff on the side, but we are back because we think that you deserve the Mortis FM treatment. Everyone does.
Here's something, Will of the Force, one of my very good friends. We just got back from ICCC. Cole was not able to make it, but everyone really wishes you were there. I've actually got some stuff for you that I'll show you off the camera. Maybe I'll go get it to show it on there because it's on behalf of Connor and Seth. But everybody really wanted you there. It was a blast, and that was just very good for my soul and my Star Wars heart. But he said this. He was like, he sends me stuff all the time. Like it'll be like the top 5 Star Wars podcasts or something like that. He's just like, Mortis FM is going to be one of these days. And I'm like, oh, stop. And he said to me, this is kind of on a separate note, but he's like, as soon as we get, he's like, we need to start getting the Grayson lightsaber content that we need. He's just like, just like the content that we deserve. Cause we were just talking about lightsabers and he's like, dude. So he is he's a very big supporter of us. And I know a lot of people have been waiting anxiously. He's great. Everybody's great. Shout out to Beyond the Dune Sea, Tony, Will. Those guys are just the best. Keep an eye out on their channels for some collaboration stuff, at least on my behalf. But to answer your question, after all of that housekeeping stuff, we're talking about our favorite Legends stories, projects.
This is me sounding surprised.
Because if you read the title, you know, and Cole obviously knows because I'm not going to blindside him.
What? We're talking about some of our favorite Legends titles today? No way.
No. Cole was like, oh crap. He's like, let me go for an hour and just like
best Legends things.
And I say projects, but I will say I have a feeling that a lot of these will be video games. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was probably going to preface it when I first started talking, but I was going to go like, hey, Grayson, I just want to let you know a lot of mine are video games.
Yeah.
But also because I have yet to really get deep into the Legends book side of things, and I really want to. And it's weird because we've talked about it before, but the kinds of Star Wars fans that we are, we know a lot of stuff about a lot of different things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have engaged with the source material. That just means that we've seen a lot of videos of people talking about this certain information and stuff.
I've just sifted through Wikipedia, just like, whoa, like, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah, a lot of these will be video games, but there might be some exclusions there, and there definitely, I am almost certain, will be some crossover here. And so when that happens, as we go back and forth, if there's something that Cole says or I say before one another, we're just gonna talk about it. And there's kind of an overarching lesson, if you will, to this whole episode, and we'll kind of get into that as we break it down. just start dancing.
And guys, as we start breaking down, you yourselves can break down as well.
Anyway, I'm gonna stop. They're gonna be like, "All right, I'm turning this off."
It's okay. We just got to get the energy out. It's been 2 months, so
it is 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Sorry.
Obligatory Cole and Grayson reference. There was one last thing that I was gonna say, but I'm blanking. I think that was all of it. So, Cole, start me off with your number 5, or your number 5.
Yeah. So, for me, it's kind of hard to put it.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
One more thing. This is what I was gonna say. Even if there's a lot of these are video games, this does not mean this is our top 5 Star Wars video games. That is a different. That's a different listing. That's a different hierarchy. So just because maybe we have like 4 video games on our list and one's at number 1 does not mean that would be our number 1 Star Wars video game, if that makes sense. So anyway, back to you.
So I was what I was going to say was that even though these are like the kind of top 5 Legends projects that are my favorite, I guess. They're kind of in no particular order. It's just stuff that I really like.
Yeah.
And it's just things that I know really formed what Star Wars was to me as I was growing up. So I think the first thing I'm going to mention, I'm going to keep it easy, even though it's kind of very specific, is 2005 Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Ooh.
But the Legends part of it is the 501st Journal.
Yes.
And there are a lot of fans that really love the 501st Journal, even though we know now that it doesn't add up because clones have inhibitor chips. But the way that, especially Tamura Morrison narrating it, it's a very interesting way of looking at how they tried to explain the whole clone perspective from Revenge of the Sith at that time. And in a way, you could still theoretically make it canon by simply saying that the inhibitor chip is just making him think that that's how it was, but that wasn't how it was, you know? So it's weird because this is like the campaign that reportedly, I think it's Pandemic, had made in such a short amount of time because they were like, all the games are about to release. We need to get a little bit of a campaign in there. Let's just have Tamura Morrison come in, record a couple lines, and we'll just shoot these really simple cutscenes of just a character walking across the stage.
Just like in-game cutscenes. Yeah.
And in terms of like production quality, it's nothing incredible, right? Yeah. And yet, how is it still so poignant? How is it still so prolific as something that's Star Wars based? So, I don't know. I think that it's really cool, and I love Star Wars Battlefront 2's viewpoint, and just like the Battlefront series of the viewpoint of the soldier, and there's just a lot of great things in there, and I don't know why. It was something that was really, really cool for me as a kid.
And there's so many like points in the campaign that are like that certain things happen within the I'd say the greater continuity, but like whether it's, you know, simple things as, oh, you fighting an Acklay, Acclay's on Felucia, or, you know, killing rogue Jedi and the Queen of Naboo on Naboo, you know, as the Empire fighting those guys, or
collecting like a battery for the Death Star super laser on Megiddo.
You get to like go to Commando and take out rogue clones, you know, like
with Boba Fett.
Very cool.
Oh, and then you can go in the one instance, even though they didn't make it possible in Conquest or Instant Action, you can go in as the Empire and fight the droids on Mustafar for that Geonosian scientist that tried to like revive the separatist movement or something.
Right. I remember that level very vividly, being like, what?
Yeah, I think I remember it was like one of the last lines in the journal that Tamura Morrison's narration, he basically said something along the lines of, we at first, we felt nostalgic fighting the droids, but very quickly we wanted to end it as soon as possible. So we blew up the laboratory, blew up the station, damn near blew up the planet. He says, you see them like orbital bombard the thing.
And it's also cool because like that was at the time of when they really stuck to this for at least a good 5 years or so. I mean, really towards the end of Legends, from 2005 all the way till kind of when it ended, that the Stormtroopers were also the clones, that they were continuously making the clones on Commando, but they were Stormtroopers now,
I think he actually mentions verbatim Vader's fist as kind of what they become in the journal, which is cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think
it's a good pick.
I think it's great. Yeah. It was simple, but it's niche. But I was like, oh, this is something I would like to talk about. So
it's good for the medium, and I had a feeling you would pick that, and I'm glad you did, because I mean, Battlefront 2 is something that you're very attached to, and I am as well. But there's some that, for me at least, not like. Video games, it would be in my top 5 undoubtedly, but in terms of like the stories and stuff, there's some that rise above the rest. But I think it's an excellent choice.
And again, I don't really think it's like, and this is to reiterate what you had said earlier about saying like, hey, these are not our top 5 so and so. Yeah. Because I don't by any means think that the 501st Journal is like a masterclass in storytelling. I think it's great, and I think it's simple. But I think it is one of my favorites because of how nostalgic it is to me, and how they can take something that's so simple and yet make it so effective and long-lasting.
It was such a quick response to, like, I mean, it came out the year that Revenge of the Sith came out, and I remember looking back later on, people were really upset because they were like, well, how would these clones just turn on the Jedi? They served with them for years, like, and this was also like, when they didn't really have as much personality, but I remember being like, well, I mean, in the game, like they talk about the whole thing, like, and it was, I just didn't have a second thought about it as a kid of like, oh, play Battlefront 2's campaign and you'll see like they just were following orders. They didn't want to do it, but they had to, sort of thing. It's cool stuff.
It's a weird window to the past. Sponsorship Harry Potter.
I was gonna say the same thing. It's like beautiful track.
Beautiful track for Prisoner of Azkaban. But it's a good window to the past of how they tried to explain things back then, which honestly just makes the inhibitor chip story even more effective, because when you think about it, you're like, how does it make sense that all of the clones knew about this and they were all fine with doing this? And the correct answer is, that's right. It doesn't make any sense. There has to be something wrong. Yeah. And I do kind of headcanon the journal still, just in the sense that the inhibitor chip is making him think that they were all in on it anyway, or that they were all just following orders anyway.
I mean, it changes your way of thinking entirely for some clones. So
I mean, practically like erases emotional attachment to some memories. So. But yeah, Grayson, what is your I guess I'll just say one of your first choices?
Yeah, I mean, so this is also no specific order, but I kind of ranked it in terms of how they stand out to me. My number 5, speaking of clones, is 2005's Republic Commando.
Yeah.
Is that on your list?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure that it's no surprise to you that that's also on my list.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, for me, I think this is a more compared to like the 501st Journals. I mean, it's built around the story mode as opposed to the story mode being built around the multiplayer with Battlefront 2.
Yes.
But it's like, this was one of my first forays into the more boots on the ground side of Star Wars. I was really into a lot of the Jedi and the Sith, and that tug between light and darkness. But this is one of the first, at least again, me being a prequel kid, first times that we got to play as a soldier in a war and see what that was like.
Right.
and no less, you get to play as this elite squad of clones, Delta Squad, who are still to this day our favorites, you know, some of our favorites. And truly, I think it's paved the way for the personalities of the clones that we see in the Clone Wars.
Absolutely has.
Because in the movies, like, I mean, we just kind of talked about it a little bit, they didn't really have a lot of personality. Delta Squad has a lot of personality, you know?
Mm-hmm. They're almost like blueprints for the clones that we'll see in the future, because there's like these developmental diaries of Republic Commando where they had shown George demos of the game, so like full squad, but Delta Squad at the time, they were just shinies, or not, you know, not shinies, but like they were commando units that didn't have any extra paint on them. And they all had placeholder lines of just, you know, go here and attack this and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And George said that he really liked it, but he really wanted the clones to have more personality. And he said, give them colors, give them names, give them different personalities.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was the beginning of that. And I mean, when you really think about it, that is probably what was stewing in George's mind, because a couple years later he would make the Clone Wars television series. So
yeah, I mean, literally like 2 or 3 years later the movie came out. So I remember I was gonna reference that exact same thing. Like I don't remember where it was at, but they talked about how George was inspired, like he wanted them to have personalities, and then I think was probably for that exact reason, the way the clones are down the line, and how a lot of people view the clones now. Like that's what the clones are.
Because it's a really good juxtaposition between the personality and the lively nature of the clones, and then the very uniform Empire. So really good stuff.
And also I will say, obviously we mentioned little offhand references to other fandoms that we like. I think if I did not play this game, I probably would not be a fan of Dead Space today. Because the Ghost, well, I mean, just that game in general, but like it has a lot of, I would say, loose thriller horror elements in it. From guts getting on your helmet from the Geonosians to then the ghost ship, the prosecutor, and just the ambiance of that ship is so similar to a few years later Dead Space comes out with the Ishimura.
I love Dead Space.
And then you go to Kashyyyk, and you feel like dark and in the trenches, and it's Wookiees being enslaved and Trandoshans being the nasty, and it's a lot of fun, and I still to this day wish we would have gotten a sequel. And it unfortunately did not happen. I would still take one, and I would still honestly take a remake of the game if you made it full-fledged 4-player. I'll take it.
I would be very happy to have any canonical iterations of Delta Squad in the future. I think that it would just be very nice to see them, because we've already gotten some of that in some previous shows. You know, we got to see we got to see our boys for like 5 seconds in the Clone Wars, and then you see Scorch later on. So but Republic Commando, I essentially agree with everything that you said. I think that Republic Commando takes itself very seriously, and I believe that kind of gives credence to the whole "there's some of Star Wars for everybody" sort of thing. Because when you play Republic Commando, the Jedi make it look so easy in comparison. Because even fighting something as simple as B1s, still takes very careful, precise movement and fire. And I don't even want to talk about how terrified I was about super battle droids as a kid.
The B2s, bro. Oh my goodness.
These like hulking machines that make very eldritch sounds, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then also accompanied by the Mandalorian chanting score, which is really great. Vodeon, just perfect. I love that theme so much, man. But also just these the symbolism of brotherhood, and then managing a team and cooperation, and how it feels between following your orders or leaving a man behind, sort of thing. I think that it gives a very excellent perspective into Star Wars that is why I put Republic Commando on my list, because it's just really, really special. And I think we should see more of that.
Yeah. So I guess on that note, we've never really talked about this, but I'm sure people are curious. You go first. Who's your favorite member in Delta Squad?
So originally,
this is tough for me.
Yeah. The thing is, you love all of them. You really do. When I was younger, my favorite was Fixer.
Yeah.
Because I always had kind of a thing for the following the rules type character, the more stickler, because I think the moments when they are not so strict, and it's like some nice little levity there in the situation, and it's fun to follow those characters, because even when they step out of line, it seems like they're committing this eldritch sin, but it makes for good character development or something.
Yeah.
But I always thought that he was cool, and I liked the voice, and I love techie stuff, so I felt closer to him. But as I've grown up, I've started to appreciate Scorch more and more.
Dude.
I, of course, as I said, I love all four of them, but I think Scorch is kind of my favorite now, just because he's so elite, and then at the same time, he is very aloof.
He's so funny, dude.
He's so funny, man. He's got some of the best lines in the game. And I think he is really just one of those first clones that we all attach to in a loving, like, lovable way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love Scorch. He's
great.
He's great. He's really good.
Scorch has grown on me immensely as well. I really love Scorch. Like, this as a kid, I just don't think I fully appreciated like his wit and his humor. And if I'm remembering correctly, when they're going through all of the members, I think he's described as the heart and soul of your team.
Yeah, I believe he is.
Yeah. So, and I think it makes sense, because he really is my favorite teeters a lot. Scorch has really risen. I got to be honest. Fixer is my least favorite.
And yeah, that's totally fine. He has a lot less development, really.
Yeah,
he does.
but again, like, there's moments where like him kind of being the stickler, like you said, creates for good moments of like, got the chatter 6'2", and like all of stuff. He's just like, you're just like, and then they like kind of banter of like, oh, why are you always gonna be like that? Like it's fun. As a kid, it's so tough. It's so tough because like I love Boss, but I will say Boss is also in that bracket of like Fixer, where he's just kind of like there's I think about there's a quote between Scorch and Boss, and he's like, "Did you get the data?" And he's just like, "You don't want to know," like, right? And I think about that, and then Boss doesn't even laugh, or he doesn't say anything. He goes, "Roger that," like, just kind of like, completely shrugs it off, which I think is great, but also it's just like, man, he's ready to do business,
Yeah, Boss is kind of an amalgamation of all of them. But he does have some moments where he makes jokes and stuff. It's very short, but when he does, it is funny. Like, I think when he mocks the lightsaber when he sees it.
Yeah. It's just like, well, guess what? Times have changed,
So when they reference, you were right. Ton Wee, which is the Kaminoan speaker talking to Boss, which I didn't know that. She does reference Scorch as the heart and soul of your team, but she mentions Fixer to be your foundation, a pure and uncomplicated soldier.
Yep.
And then she mentions Sev as the fiercest hunter of all your brethren. You are each a piece of a whole person, and the Republic will call on you to defend and give your lives if need be.
Dude, such a banger opening.
Yeah, like, so they all complement each other in a really great way.
I will say I think I still have a soft spot for Sev. I really do.
He's so cool, man. That voice.
So cool.
Oh.
Yeah, and he's got the gravelly voice. He's just kind of like he's the sniper, the hunter. He's got the kind of almost
to be the demolitions expert.
Yeah, dude, he's classic. Like he's unintentionally funny, you know? Like and sometimes there's moments where he's kind of an idiot sometimes. Like he's like he's just like like he's awkward, and I just love that about him. And I mean, he's got the red paint marks. Like I've got a sticker right here, and I've got his action figure over there, just kind of like the pseudo red, like bloody paint on his armor and stuff.
It's very cool.
It's so cool, dude.
And all of these guys were definitely blueprints for the Bad Batch.
Absolutely. Like I don't think the Bad Batch would exist without these guys. You know, it's that kind of just that, I don't know, that perfect Venn diagram of all of their kind of crossover and stuff. But I would love to see Sev show up one day, especially because they had planned for him to be part of the Rebel Alliance at some point.
That was a kind of a funny conclusion for almost every gaming Legends project.
Yeah.
Like it would just, and he ends up inspiring or starting the rebellion or something. So when I had heard that, I was like, that's really cool, and it's also really funny. So
yeah. I don't know why I always envisioned him like when you think he's dead, he actually gets stuck on Kashyyyk and he helps like free Wookiees. Like I always thought that would be like, there's this concept art in the Force Unleashed book where there's like Wookiees fighting against the Imperials, and I always loved the idea of like Sev but kind of going native in a way, and he's like working and like cooperating with the Wookiees to where he's like hunting down Imperials and stuff. Like
that'd be cool.
I mean just make him like, because Hunter is kind of clone Rambo, but like I like the idea of him just like him being like a menace to these clones that are like doing bad things to the Wookiees. But yeah, Republic Commando, I love it. Still one of my favorites to this day.
Just a really good choice, man. Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and we're doing a segue into another segue since you had mentioned it. A pick on my list is The Force Unleashed.
The Force Unleashed is my number one.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So, you know what? Since it's your number one, why don't you just go ahead?
Oh,
man. I want to hear you open this, and then I'll jump off of that.
Sure. Yeah. So, The Force Unleashed is so special to me, and I know it is to you as well. This was truly, I believe, really the first big thing that got me into the expanded universe, because it was everywhere, dude. Like if you were a Star Wars fan in 2008, if you're a prequels kid growing up, going into the early 2010s, you knew about The Force Unleashed because they had the books, they had the comics, they had all of the different platforms of the video games, where it was all the way down to the DS or the Nokia phone, all the way up to the 360 and PS3.
Dude, they ported it so many times.
They did. It was on iPhone, bro. It was like a little swipe game. It was crazy. The Force Unleashed is such a cool concept because of just the simple and pure idea of what if Darth Vader had a secret apprentice. That is such a awesome idea, and from what I remember, George was he was kind of involved in this project, like whether he viewed it as canon or not, like he's still like he was actively involved and like around because he was developing Clone Wars, and just at least for the first game and the second game too, but the first game is such a awesome Star Wars adventure of like a really interesting main protagonist with kind of these inverse characters of the Falcon. You've got like Ram Koda is one of my all-time favorites. I love Proxy.
I love him.
Juno being this like kind of like straight edge Imperial pilot, like, and then just all of these awesome other characters, like bringing back Shaak Ti and including Maris Brood, and then like the boss fights having Bail Organa and Leia. Like it's just this awesome Star Wars adventure, with the icing on the cake being, at least on the video game side, you are just insanely powerful in the Force. And whether it's canonical to the EU or just strictly for the fun of the game, which I kind of lean into the latter, it still rocks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good, it's, I mean, it is the Force Unleashed. And as we know, all of these stories are different ways to show us how they interpret the Force. So
right. Yeah, it's and so like I don't sit like a lot of people. I think the EU especially did this where it was like, oh, how powerful people could get into the Force and right and like that's awesome. I love that for certain stories, but I have grown to love the more nuanced feeling of the Force. And I actually was talking to Timothy Zahn this past weekend.
For you.
I talked to him a lot. Timothy Zahn, I know you're not listening to this, but sincerely, like you were the best. You answered so many questions for us, and you're just one of the all-time greats.
That's great.
And we were talking about how he kind of viewed the Force, right? And it was always like it was power versus guidance, and it was like you couldn't really have one without the it's kind of. It's never both at the same time in a weird way, which I was like, I like that interpretation. And so it's like, sometimes Luke, and especially in the EU, is going crazy powerful. And I'm like, just the way he was describing that of like it was very interesting. I'm not doing it justice on his part, but yeah, I mean, without the Force Unleashed, I mean, I probably played that game hundreds of times because I played it on the DS, I played it on the PSP, I played it on the PS2, I played it at the Wii on my friend's house, I played it on the 360, I played it on my phone. I played it so much, it's insane. And without that game, I won't go as bold to say like I wouldn't be a Star Wars fan, but I would not be nearly as a invested Star Wars fan without that project.
Well, there are certain kind of stepping stones that really prolong your love for something. And especially in the earlier stages of getting into the fandom of something like that. So like when we were growing up, obviously the prequels were coming out and we saw the originals, and then the Clone Wars was coming out, and we were also playing the games. We were playing Battlefront 2 and Republic Commando and Bounty Hunter and The Force Unleashed, Old Republic, like all that stuff. We had so much really good content that was coming out.
Yeah.
And The Force Unleashed is just, I remember thinking how cool it was watching that trailer of Starkiller bringing down the Star Destroyer. It was so cool, because that's a perfect way to show you the title of the game, right? I mean, he can't possibly bring down that Star Destroyer, right? Well, size matters not, as Yoda says, but this is the Force Unleashed. This is the Force going crazy. I don't think, I think people sometimes look at it in a wrong way. Like, it's called the Force Unleashed for a reason. It is literally just meant to show us just kind of the craziest, almost God of War-esque Star Wars.
That was the inspiration.
Version.
That was when God of War and all those games were like, it was the over-the-top grittiness,
just hack and slash, and you're a demigod pretty much. And I mean, it's very, very powerful in the way that it shows itself, and that's great. It's like a video game version of Star Wars Visions, right? Because you just get to see different iterations of it. And also Sam Witwer's introduction into Star Wars, breakthrough role for the guy, I really want to see him reprise it again.
I do too.
But we will see. But yes, it was a game that I played all the time as well, and in many different formats. And also the music, dude. I always, you always forget to talk about the music. Like it's so powerful. Just the main theme alone. Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, man.
It's just really great.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my pick. Well,
I think we should probably go back to you because I spoke a lot at lengths about that. So let's go ahead and get a double for you there.
Okay, so which one do I want to talk about?
How many you got left? 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this one is a two-parter
Okay.
And so since you talked about your number one, I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about what I believe to be my number one, which is Knights of the Old Republic.
That is on my list as well.
Yeah, I mean it's no surprise. It's really not. But that is on the top of my list, but it's also a two-parter because I have also mixed it with the Old Republic MMO.
Sure. Okay.
They aren't the same thing as we know, but they do deal with the same era. The Old Republic MMO was basically it was created post Knights of the Old Republic, same era, using the same ideas and stuff like that. But Knights of the Old Republic is prolific for me because it was such a special game to me as a kid. Even though I never got past Terrace. I didn't even get to the Terrace Undercity. I was still on the Upper City, and I just remember feeling so I was like, man, I don't know what to do, but this is so cool.
Right.
Because the way that it starts on the Endar Spire, and again the music, I've got the Endar Spire theme ingrained into my mind. But you again, boots on the ground kind of situation where you're playing an RPG. You wake up, you don't know who you are. You're in the middle of an attack. There is a Sith Empire attack, and you see a Jedi and a Sith duking it out in the hallway. And I remember thinking, man, that's so cool. I want to do that too. But you knew that if you went in there, you were gonna die. And so it made me start to see Star Wars from a little bit of a different perspective. And at that time, I didn't know just how grand that story would become, of becoming Darth Revan and, like realizing that you were Darth Revan, right? And facing off against Darth Malak. Really, really cool stuff. But I think what is so special about it is that it reminds us that Star Wars can still be interesting without all of the characters that we know. This is millennia in the past from The Phantom Menace. But somehow, in this new era of all of these new creatures and droids and different approaches to the Jedi and the Sith, it's all very interesting and engaging. And it's something that I think current era Star Wars really lacks. I think that they need to kind of bring that back, and they're starting to do so.
Yeah.
And so
you were gonna say like it feels it's so different. It's so far off from the timeline. Yet when I play it, I feel at home. Like it's just got that Star Wars charm, man. It's.
I mean, with Jeremy Soul's music in there, the composer for Skyrim, it's no wonder I feel nostalgic.
Right.
But I remember the main menu theme and Bastila's theme. It's just really, really good stuff. And it takes me back to a time when I felt like, you know what? This is actually a great way to articulate it. It kind of reminds you of the majesty and the magic of Star Wars, because when you first play it, yes, it's Star Wars. You know what Star Wars is. But almost everything is entirely unfamiliar to you because it's a completely new era. And so it can take a seasoned Star Wars fan and make them a fish out of water again. And I think that that's really special because, yeah, we're a fish out of water, but we love Star Wars and we love to see what these new things are. So yeah, that era is really special to me. And then the supplement here is the Old Republic MMO. Very, very different in execution, but once again, the way that it fleshes out the era. And I remember when the MMO first started, I went to GameStop to go get my CD key, which is just such an old idea now. But and those cinematic trailers with Darth Malgus, infiltrating the Jedi Temple and all of the other ones, like just really good stuff. You could make
that an entire bullet point on our list alone of just the Old Republic trailers,
But another thing that I love, especially from the MMO, is that the historical archives. That there's a Jedi Master Nostaral, and I can't believe I remember that name. He's a Keldor master, a Jedi master, where he's essentially the archivist, and he is looking back into history to find out how things got to be the way that they were. And what upsets me is that BioWare never finished it. They thought that people were not interested in enough to continue funding it, but all of the archives are still there, so you can check out the Galactic Timeline. There's compilations on YouTube. It's really good stuff, but he never finishes. And so it again feels like this kind of ancient history, but the way that he talks about it, there's so much reverence to the history of Star Wars. And I really love that sort of stuff. So that entire era is just very special to me, so that's why it was on the top of my list.
Yeah, I think it's my number 3. It is my number 4, so it was going to be the very next one that I talked about. So I mean, you said it best. Like, genuinely, like, that is across the board exactly how I feel, and there is obviously a reason why people clamor so much for that era still. And I think it could still very much work in the current canon of Star Wars, and so I still kind of view it that way a little bit. I'm like, well, there's nothing really that's decanonizing, and it's 3,000 years before, 4,000 years before. Like, it's still awesome. Like, I actually have a deep desire to go back and play KOTOR 1 and 2, and you and I, yeah, we still we hop in the MMO, and those stories are long, dude.
Yeah,
like,
but it's so cool.
Yeah. We gotta do it. Maybe we should. Maybe it should be like we could do like a. Well, if we could meet up, I kind of want to do a smuggler. I don't know. I kind of want to do a smuggler.
That would be cool.
Dude, smuggler Jedi duo.
That could be really sick.
That'd be pretty fun. Let us know if we've been talking about possibly doing a series on us playing the Old Republic. If you're interested in that, let us know. That would be a lot. I think that'd be a lot of fun for us, but I don't want to do it if people are like, just I mean, we'll do it on our own time, but if you want to see it publicized, but
if you want us to record it, we will.
And that whole archivist thing, like, so I finished the Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire a few weeks ago. Probably it was when Hurricane Helene swiped through. Yeah.
The like in lore history book. I gotta check that out, man.
It's really good. It was so comprehensive, and I would love something like that for whenever the Old Republic comes out, or whenever they do that, or whenever the High Republic is done, man. Like, do something like that. Like, it is the nerdiest thing ever, and it's awesome. Like, it's so cool. Like, I'm sitting there reading about the different flagships and the rankings of the Imperial hierarchy, and like what planets and the academies and all of this stuff, and I'm like, I'm deep in the text, like,
I like this.
Yeah, it's sick. KOTOR rocks, and I would not be surprised if there are many people listening that it's not their number 1 as well.
It's really special Star Wars Legends, and just really special Star Wars content that I think needs to be done proper justice canonically.
Yeah.
So.
And I think what you said about the whole, like, feeling familiar to a seasoned Star Wars fan, yet feeling like a fresh out of water thing, I've always said this, I really hope they do a trilogy of movies, like whether it's centered around Tar Vizsla or Revan, I don't know, to just kind of bring in those elements and just be like, this is Star Wars, but this is not like, I think there's a reason why something Rogue One was so successful, where, it felt familiar, but it was a brand new cast of characters. It did deal with some of the familiar characters. Take that a step further, right? And if they're gonna do this James Mangold, first Jedi movie, then they definitely can do an Old Republic trilogy, Yeah,
Star Wars, in order for Star Wars to survive, it needs to be new and interesting. We can't keep rehashing the same things. I think it's totally fine to expand stories on existing characters. I love them. You know I do.
Yeah.
But when Star Wars is new and interesting, that is really what keeps me going. I think that's why I enjoyed Acolyte so much.
I was gonna say the same thing. Like, I've been more outspoken about, even though Acolyte is not my favorite Star Wars thing ever, what I love about it was what it did so differently. Like, what the characters it introduced, the era that it was in, the planets, of course, one of my now favorite villains of all time. Like, it's it's just it, and that's the kind of stuff that, yes, even if they misstep a little bit, like it's still it's progress in my opinion. And I think even though I'm sure we will get flamed for being like, how dare you compare the Knights of the Republic to the Acolyte or whatever, I'm like, boo-hoo, sorry man. Like it's like obviously
if that's the takeaway from that, I would just exit now, y'all.
Yeah,
you know?
I was like, I don't know how to help you, man. I don't know how to help you. Like, anyway, so yeah, if you've never played KOTOR, treat yourself. As long as you can find a way to play it, even if you got a bum PC, you can probably find a way to play it. So
there's, I mean, it got ported to Switch, KOTOR.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you're right.
So there's an option for that, and then also apparently the remake is still in the works.
Who knows, man?
Winging a prayer, you know. But so yeah, that's actually. I've got one more on my list. So
you only have one more?
Yeah, because I got the 501st Journal, Force Unleashed, Republic Commando, and now KOTOR. KOTOR and the Old Republic. So I've only have one more. So how many more do you have?
I have two. I have two left. And I'm willing to bet one of these.
I think one of them is on my list. So
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna. Should I go with my individual one, or should I go with the hunch of what I think yours is as well?
Do your individual one, and then hopefully if I say the right thing, we'll both talk about it in closing.
It's gonna be funny if this is just wrong. But yeah, so mine is also a two-parter, a double one, because they're so similar. And that is, of course, Jedi Academy and Jedi Outcast.
Yep. I had a feeling you were going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and probably for context, like that's probably my favorite Star Wars games just to play. But I will say, like, it's not my number one in terms of the stories. But what it does do is it continues that original trilogy era of Star Wars, and it's why I'm currently in the middle of reading Heir to the Empire, and I almost put that as like a tentative, like it's probably going to be on my top 5, because within even the first 2 chapters I'm like, this is amazing, like this is so good. But like my Outcast and Academy was really what got me into that whole era. Like I was speaking to a friend recently, and he was like, oh, you know, I grew up and I was thinking about being a Jedi and fighting battle droids, and I was like, yeah, every kid did. But I think back more on it now. I had more out my front yard with my telescopic lightsaber, envisioning that I was fighting stormtroopers. Yeah, that was my thing, because of these games and The Force Unleashed, is you were fighting the troopers. And so I mean, it got me into I have a memory of my dad showing me Jedi Outcast. It probably was only a few years after it had come out, maybe 2005. I want to say right around when Battlefront 2 came out. Yeah. I remember my dad like sitting me down, and he was playing it, and I was like, this is insane. This is amazing. Yeah. And
just thinking it's the coolest thing ever.
Right. I'm like, oh, this dude, he's running around with a blaster. Well, my dad would always put cheat codes in. So like with Outcast, you don't start off with a lightsaber. Kyle has like renounced his ways of the Force and gone back to being a mercenary. But then by like level 4, you get your lightsaber back. But he would always put in cheat codes to get the lightsaber just from the get-go. And that was how I played. I was like, I don't want to shoot. I was like, I want a lightsaber. And so that was just so fun for me, because the levels were intricate and not easy. And it was just being able to, like, that third person, like, I think really paved the way for something like Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order.
It had a very weirdly complex combat system that is easy to navigate on its surface, if that makes sense.
Right. I mean, it's you know, your movement of your diagonal slashes and your upward slashes and your like it was your side slashes and stuff. Like it was just super fun being able to like go down a hallway, and I mean, really, like, you think about it, like the Luke hallway scene of when he's going through and fighting through those dark troopers, like that was kind of also an extension of unlocking that memory as a kid of going through a hallway as Kyle Katarn and blocking back blaster bolts at stormtroopers and, you know, using a force push and then throwing your lightsaber. Like, it was fun. And then, of course, Jedi Academy expanded on that because you got to make your own character. I mean, you're playing as a preset character, but you get to really make your own. You got to create your own lightsaber. You got to choose your force powers, go on these missions in any order you wanted, whether it's on Corellia or it's on Bakura or it's on Tatooine. You know, you're going to all of these different places, and it was so interconnected to the EU. I mean, I replayed Jedi Academy a few months ago. I play it at least once a year just because I'm like, I got that itch. And like they're talking about stuff from Heir to the Empire and Dark Empire, and I'm like, man, this is so cool. Like, they were just really expanding upon the initiative of the EU, and to this day, I still love playing those games. And Kyle Katarn is one of my favorite Legends characters. He's the Chuck Norris of Star Wars.
It's really influencing me to check this stuff out for myself. Because I mean, like, I had a childhood history with Jedi Academy, because I still have the CD disc somewhere.
Oh, what? Oh man.
Yeah, but I remember I had gotten it specifically to play the mods for it, because Movie Duels had come out pretty quickly. It was like a couple years on, but essentially someone had recreated all of the iconic movie battles using the audio and the voice lines and all that stuff. And I remember being on YouTube and I saw that you can play as Anakin fighting all the Jedi in the temple, and I was like, that's so cool. What game is this? And and it said Jedi Academy. So I got the disc, and I remember I started the campaign and I was like, man, I just want to play the mod. And so I just found a way to install the mod, and so I played that, and I had a blast with it, but I had never gone back to play the campaign. So that's something that I really need to do.
Yeah. I mean, I remember there was and I'm working on a video of this. There's a reason why I have this lightsaber right here. And it's Kyle Katarn's, because even as a kid, there was a cutscene of him going into a bar on Nar Shaddaa, one of my favorite, not planets, moons, I guess, one of my favorite locations, and him slapping the lightsaber hilt on the bar and to like intimidate a guy. And the Chiss is like, basically, he has this weird dialect, but he's like, oh, you're a Jedi. And he's just like, I'm no Jedi. I'm just a guy with a lightsaber and a few questions. And I remember just being like, yo, this guy is hard, bro. Like, this guy.
It's a cool line. That's he's cold, man. And he wins every single time. We do that's a whole nother story.
that's coming up.
That's a whole nother story. Anyone who had seen our Instagram stories in the past, you will probably know what we're talking about.
It's coming, and I will say what I love about it as well is, like, even Jedi Academy. Spoiler alert for the final boss. Like, you go to Korriban. Like, it's all of the Jedi and Luke's new academy, which I am such a simp for Luke's new academy. It's just like, there's just something about it that I'm like, this is awesome. The way he reforms the Jedi, very cool. And you go to Korriban, and depending on your choice on the level before, you're either going there as a dark Jedi or as a light side. I always typically go light side, but you're fighting with your fellow Jedi, and then you get to the tomb of Mark Arachnos, which is in KOTOR, by the way.
Hey.
And you fight Tavion. And then she is like, Mark Arachnos is released from his tomb, and his spirit takes over Tavion, and you get to fight her with his scepter, which is now like a giant force sword, right, from the Tales Beyond.
That is like, so EU coded.
Yeah. I was like, I love this, dude. Like, and I remember when I played KOTOR, so I played those games. I played KOTOR from cover to cover after I'd played that, and when I got to the tomb of Mark Arachnos, I was like, no way, dude. Like, I was like, it's just that one little thing is so cool. So it really is is just the quintessential Jedi adventure, and I just love the fantasy that it gives you, and just what it adds to the universe, especially after Return of the Jedi. So yeah, but why don't you give me what I think is our last one? I think.
Okay, so
I could be so wrong here.
The last one here that I have is not a game. It's a book.
Oh.
So
that is not what I picked.
Oh.
It's something different.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
There's a part of me that thinks that when you say yours, it's going to be something that I completely forgot about, and I'm going to go, no, I should have said that. Okay, but the last one that I have on my list that I wanted to talk about is a book, Darth Plagus.
Of course.
We read this not long ago, earlier this year. And I'm sure many people many people that are watching know just how influential and prolific of a book this is. But Darth Plagus by James Luceno is simply an incredible novelization of the tragedy of Darth Plagus the Wise, simply cut from a very short but very influential scene in Revenge of the Sith. It's interesting how one line or one set of lines can just create this whole story. That's why I love Star Wars so much. But it's something about James Luceno's writing style, man. Like the way that he characterizes Palpatine and Plagueis and gives us kind of the inside of their minds. It is just so interesting. And I love the way that he articulates Star Wars and its galaxy. And I think that having a very Sith-centric story is something that I've really been wanting for a while. Because, they've always been really great villains in the story, but to really follow them through every beat is just simply magnificent. I love it. It's a great book, and I just want to see what they want to do about this in canon. Okay, it's just
Well, we thought we were going to.
Yeah, we thought that they were going to, and you know what? Maybe they still will. They could change their minds, but as for right now, I guess we'll just say, F it, you know? But the book itself, I think it is kind of the definitive Legends book. When someone is talking about Star Wars Legends and the novels, usually the first thing that I think of is Darth Plagueis.
Right.
Just because of how well known it is and just how everyone knows that it's just such a great book. And also, as you had pointed out, because I had not read those other novels, has a lot of interconnectivity with other Legends books.
Yeah, dude.
Even with the whole Legends thing, like how you had mentioned how they did it in Academy with Luke's New Jedi Order and all that stuff. Even though it was Legends, they were all still trying to make it connect in some way, which was interesting. That was number 4 on my list, but it's still just really great.
I almost put it on my list as well because of just how good of a standalone novel it is and what it interconnects with. And truly, I think that book really... I just love when I get new ways to interpret and perceive the Force. And I think that's one of the best things about that book is you're reading it and I'm like, man, this still feels so in line with a lot of things that we're getting in canon now. And I think there's a lot of stuff in it that still applies to canon today. And I think, there's this is one of the lessons in this whole thing is like, despite these things not being in the current continuity, like, we still enjoy these things so much. And there's still so much you can take from them to, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, become a better Star Wars fan, if that makes sense. Like,
it's a good supplement to just kind of the understanding of what Star Wars is as an IP. And as a story, as a narrative. And like you had mentioned, as we were reading it earlier this year, it kind of better informed us as to the happenings of what was going on in Star Wars canon right now. And how we can very clearly see that this book inspired a lot of that.
Right. I blew Mark Thompson's mind at ICCC, voice actor for a lot of the audiobooks for Star Wars. Amazing dude. He had actually never read Plagueis because he doesn't do the audiobook for that. So naturally, he gets to read the books because he's doing the voices, right? So he's read a lot of books, but this is one that he didn't do. And so we were talking about, he's like, I actually haven't read Plagueis. It's one that I'm planning on reading. And we were talking about the Mortis gods and things. And I still kind of hold to this theory. Like, it mentions partly about these celestials or these people that turned into like that were so strong in the Force, and it's kind of ambiguous. And I'm like, man, like what a cool little detail, right? Like that it's because it was coming out at a time when Clone Wars, you know, the Clone Wars was also coming out, so it's still it ties a lot of things that are still in canon currently, and it's really good. And sometimes it can be a little bit of a slow burn because it is political heavy, it's dialogue heavy, but like treat yourself.
My favorite kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is like Game of Thrones level Star Wars right here, you know, just like it's really political intrigue and backstabbing and deception, and it's really good, dude. And again, the characterization of Palpatine and Plagueis and everything.
Well, it also just gives us a better understanding of the Sith grand plan. Just ultimately very well done. And I really appreciate it as a narrative, and it reminds me of parts of Star Wars that I love, because all of these things that we have mentioned are just so perfectly Star Wars in their own way, and they don't have to conform to certain ways of storytelling because it's okay. You can have a crazy dark politic heavy Sith story, but then you can turn around and have this happy-go-lucky thing, you know, like Skeleton Crew, which is about to come out. That's what makes it so special. So
yeah, and that's kind of a big overarching point to this, and I will make my final point after I mention my final one. Maybe you didn't think about this one. This one I almost forgot about, and I was like, oh wait, no, of course I got to put this in here. It is Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars.
Oh man.
Yeah. That is my number 2.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It's and that's also another one of those things like The Force Unleashed that on car rides and stuff, I would watch that thing all the time because
over and over again.
It was just pure Star Wars goodness, right? It's Anakin and Obi-Wan and Yoda and all these other Jedi fighting battle droids, fighting the Separatists, like
Grievous's debut.
Oh my dude.
And the way that he's articulated, Pete Grievous, man. It's
dude.
It depreciates in value. It's like a car you take out of the lot. Once you take it out, it's only gonna get lower and lower.
I remember there's a really, really funny video, like, oh gosh, it's from like a little internet game show of these really cool people. I'm blanking on the name. Someone will probably correct me. I want to say, like, I think it's called like Well Actually, or Actually.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, and so it was this one thing, and they're like it's something about like the difference between the Clone Wars versus Clone Wars, right? Yeah. Like they're like, not to be confused with the Clone Wars, which is canon, you know. And they get into this whole thing, and they're like, they were talking about how they wanted to put Grievous in there, and like they obviously, this is very much in a joking manner, but they're like, George Lucas comes up, he's like, you made General Grievous too cool, like, you know. Like, it's just like, because they made him like really cool, and they're like, can you give him like a cough and like just like make him suck, you know, like
just make him suck, please.
Yeah, they were like, they made General Grievous way too cool, and then they were like, well, we have to severely nerf him. But
yeah, I was gonna say it's like a video game. When Grievous was released as a new character, he was severely OP.
Yeah.
And the patch that nerfed him accidentally nerfed him to hell. So
it's like a Metroidvania game or whatever, or like a sequel to a game. Like you play the first game and you get really powerful, and then like the second game comes out, and then you're like, you've lost all your powers, time to get them back. But, like, and that's what Grievous is doing, but he's just like, his level cap is lessened because he's just got that cough, you know.
Mace Windu took everything from him, apparently.
Yeah, dude. But no, I mean, this series is beautiful animation, wonderful voice acting, amazing action, really cool, deep EU stuff. Dirge, my boy Dirge, Seth, if you're listening, Dirge, put a fist bump right there. Yeah, dude, the entire weekend it was just Seth and like it was just Seth against Will, but like because Seth doesn't like Cad Bane because he replaced Jurge basically. And I was like, so it's more so of like a bitterness thing. He's just like, oh, his stupid rocket boots, and he's got a hat, and he talks like this, like, and I was like, it's so funny. And then Will, of course, is like, he's like, yo, Cad, he's like, I love Cad Bane, but no, like, it's pure EU stuff, and it is so formative for Star Wars, and I still watch it. I still watch it to this day, man. I mean, there's not much I can say other than it is like quintessential Star Wars, and it is one of the EU projects that I still think very fondly of. And without it, we never would have gotten James Arnold Taylor continuing to reprise his role as Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and to be honest, without it, we wouldn't have had all of the inspired concepts that were then put into the Clone Wars TV show.
Yeah, heavily inspired.
So at the very least, it was it served as a blueprint, and so its influence is still there. I just wish that they had followed the blueprint when it came to Grievous.
Yeah, Don't we all, man? Don't we all? I remember I was talking. Actually, I was at a panel with James Arnold Taylor and Ashley Eckstein, and he mentions that Clone Wars and how it's no longer canon, and you could tell he was a little bit bummed by it. And I didn't get a chance to talk to him about it, but I remember talking to Ashley specifically and being like, here's the moral of this episode, right? I remember telling her, and be like, just because it's not canon doesn't mean it doesn't matter. It's not like there's this tendency that what's not canon, well, throw it out the window, doesn't matter, no need for it, and I'm like, that's just not how I see it, and I don't believe that's how people should see it. Just like Star Wars is Star Wars, math is math, Star Wars is Star Wars, and it's like, there's stuff in Legends that I don't love. There's stuff in canon I don't love, but there's a lot in canon I love, and there's a lot in Legends that I love. And at the end of the day, like, it's all a bunch of good Star Wars that I will always cherish and love, and it will make me I will always think back on all of these things and look to the future on all of these things. Of that made me more of a Star Wars fan, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And just because it's not in the greater continuity doesn't mean it doesn't matter to me. I mean, like, obviously there's some stuff that's like that it's kind of like, okay, this is like very irrelevant, but it's still cool to like read it or watch it and be like, see where the inspirations come from. What cool stuff could they take from this and then put into canon, right?
Well, as we have been briefed on before, the beauty of Star Wars is that all of it's kind of loose canon, because it's as Dave Filoni had mentioned, which I love that he said that, because I came up with the idea on my own, and then I heard that Dave also thinks it the same way.
You're like, my man Dave.
Yeah, my man Dave, him and I were on the same level, that it's all just kind of campfire, like stories told around a campfire, because it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Some people think it went this way. Like, oh, Grievous was really powerful, and some people think of it this way. No, Grievous was a coward. He wasn't, Yeah. Oh, Luke built his own order and was really successful. Well, no, actually, Luke's order was destroyed, and So I think that you can just kind of interpret it how you want. Now, obviously, we are told that like there is a definitive continuity, so as to make things easier for audiences to understand. But if there's something that you really like, who's to say it didn't happen, because it's all fiction anyway. So
it's all up to you. Like, there's this whole kind of, people are like, oh, the whole headcanon thing, they don't love it. And it's like, yeah, like, obviously there is a continuity that exists. There is a canon. But again, like, you can kind of pick and choose, like, oh, I like that and don't like it. And it doesn't mean, like, if someone else has a different opinion, that you can't be like, oh, okay, like, I respect that, right? Even if you don't like it. I mean, I interviewed people at ICCC, and it was like, they told me some of their favorite things, and I'm like, wow, hot take. And I'm like, that's awesome. I don't like that you love that, or like that's something that I don't know. Like, that's cool, because then now I'm going to go seek it out, or I'll find a new way to appreciate it. Like, I had an entire conversation with Will in the car ride about how Matthew Stover, the writer of the Revenge of the Sith novelization and many other Star Wars novels, talking about The Last Jedi, the moment with Luke, you know, when Luke turns on the lightsaber, he said, he was like, well, I always thought that he saw that Ben was going to kill Han. That's what he saw. Right. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never even thought about that, dude. And that's a campfire story. It's just like, oh, well Luke, like, yeah. Well, maybe Luke would turn on his lightsaber and think about that of like, it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, I'm damned if I don't do it because he's going to kill Han, and I'm damned if I do it because that means I failed my nephew, you know? The
literal line is, he will bring death and destruction to everything that I love. And for the briefest moment of instinct, I thought I could stop it. It passed like a fleeting shadow, and I was left with shame and with consequence. And yeah, you said it best. Matthew Stover said it best. Like, that makes sense to me. In an instinct, he thought that he could stop it because that's what Luke does. Luke does things. He's an impulsive individual like his father, you know, like that happens. And there was a video that you've seen before. It was I don't remember the YouTube channel I'm blanking on. It was like Hero fan films, I think, where he did like edits of Star Wars. He did one for Obi-Wan, and he did one for Luke, and he does this one for Luke called Failure.
Right.
And when it's referencing Luke talking about in the briefest moment of instinct, I thought I could stop it. It's not showing Luke, it's showing Anakin with Palpatine and Mace. And Anakin in that moment knew that Mace doing this by killing Palpatine, he would bring destruction and death to everything that he loved, which was Padme. And in the briefest moment of instinct, he stopped it. And then he was left with shame and with consequence.
Right.
What have I done? You know, so I think that's a really great parallel. And so I fully accepted that scene there.
Right.
So yeah, went a little tangential there, but I think that's good.
And it shows like seeking out some of this stuff can help you be a better Star Wars fan and help understand of like, oh, maybe where some things draw from, and the Force is kind of like this here, but it's a little bit different over here. Like, that's what Dave and Sam Witwer have said before. Like, even reading Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire, it reaffirmed that whole thing. That's a canon book. That is a canon novel within the universe of Star Wars. And yet there was a mistake. They said that the Grand Inquisitor is an Umbaran. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. I was like, because that's not true. And I sent a thread to Chris Kimshaw, and I was like, hey there, I'm loving the book. Was this a mistake? Was this intentional? I'm like, it does not, like, I'm not mad about this. I'm just curious. And he was like, and he played it off. Like, I mean, he was so nice in his response. And basically said, like, it basically said it was a mistake. But I told him, I was like, well, I'm just going to chalk it up to, you know, that the Beaumont Kin, that the reports had gotten lost in translation, because Utapau and an Umbaran in typing can be kind of similar, and maybe that the reports were that they got skewed, and so he wrote down it was an Umbaran. I mean, there's not pictures of the Grand Inquisitor or anything. Actually, there is a picture of the Grand Inquisitor, but it's like the one from Kenobi. Well, and it's like, oh, well, he kind of looks Umbaran in that, so maybe they just made a mistake.
Yeah, so what I was gonna say is that in a really weird twist of fate, that ties in to the production mistake, air quotes, of Kenobi, where he looks more like an Umbaran than Pawan, Utapauan.
Pawan, yeah.
But that's actually just a really weird coincidence there. I think that works, but at the same time, that makes it perfect because
campfire story.
Yeah, because I mean, even in our own history books, there can be mistakes, and certainly in our history books, there can be bias. So maybe this in-universe historian either just got the facts wrong, or just something's not right. Right. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's cool stuff, and I think that's kind of how you can view a lot of these stories. Just what all you said, and so
you flow with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can find there's a lot in Star Wars, and you can make a lot of stuff work if you think a little bit about it. And even if at the end of the day it doesn't work entirely, you can still be like, well, this and this and this kind of fits, right? And I like that. I'm still diving into the EU, the Legends stuff. I'm reading Heir to the Empire right now. I'm absolutely loving it. It's not canon, but I'm loving it. Like, it doesn't change. It's still Star Wars to me.
Well,
you know?
Yeah, that's the one connection that the one key connection between canon and Legends. They are both Star Wars stories. So if someone asks you, what's your favorite Star Wars story? You can still say something in Legends because...
And I think going to a Star Wars celebration really helped us with that. Because it's like, you go there, and it's like on one corner, there's a Jinn or so, walking around. And there's a chopper. But on the other, there's a Star Killer, and there's a Revan, right? And then there's a Bastila, and then there's a Han Solo.
There's a little bit for everybody, man. It's
right,
just Star Wars.
It's just Star Wars all over the place, you know? So... That's kind of the whole point. Is if you haven't dived into the EU, there's no pressure, but there's a rich history there. There's a lot of things to love in it, and if you already do love that stuff and you're bitter towards the canon, don't compare them, right? Embrace both of them, and yes, things can be imperfect sometimes. That is it is folly to think you're gonna love everything, and if you do, that's awesome. But Star Wars, it's all Star Wars.
Just remember why I love Star Wars. That's it.
Remember? Yes, exactly. That's kind of the comeback episode of this is remember why you love Star Wars. Yeah. Go back to the old stuff. Go to remember why you can embrace some of the new stuff. But you know what we haven't done in 2 months?
Jetpack!
It sounds like we're saying jetpack. Jetpack!
Me when I get a jetpack.
Number 78, Cole. A crime syndicate has taken control of a farming town. You're a Jedi Knight, and you can bring 6 Jedi with you to save the town. Whoa. Which Jedi, regardless of the time period they belong to, do you choose?
Dude, this crime syndicate's gonna get messed up, bro.
And this is a great question because I'm allowing Legends and Canon Jedi.
Yeah, regardless. That really is perfect. Dude,
give me your list, brother.
You said 6 Jedi with me.
Yeah. So this is like 7 samurai, but it's 7 Jedi, and it's crazy. You and 6 others. It's your dream team here, bro.
Okay. All right. Well, I gotta have Revan in there.
Night Jedi Revan.
It has to be redeemed Revan because I need him to have that experience from the other side. Because you know, man, that like when they come back from that, like they are so much more powerful somehow.
Yeah.
Okay, we got Revan. I'm bringing Obi-Wan.
Which version of Obi-Wan? Because if we're doing time period, is this episode 3 Obi-Wan or is this old Ben?
This would be episode 3 Obi-Wan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prime Obi.
Yeah. Okay. So we're bringing episode 3 Obi-Wan. We're bringing redeemed Revan. We're gonna bring in. Let's see. I feel like I'm doing the what's like my Sinister Six here.
Yeah.
Oh man. Let's see. Who else would I bring? What about you? I bring in 2.
Okay. You want to go back to back 2? So I don't. I'll remember mine at least. I mean, off the cuff, Jedi Master Luke Skywalker with the all black green lightsaber. You see him in Mando, or the way he appears in Legends of he's in his bag, dude. I'm bringing.
He's
Luke.
in his bag. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is tough because it's like hard to pinpoint like technically if he is a Jedi at this point, but I'm just gonna say he is. And that's going to be Jedi Galen Merrick at the end of The Force Unleashed 1. Man. In the gray robes with the blue lightsaber.
That's tough, man.
Yeah, dude.
That's tough. Okay. So, redeemed Revan, episode 3 Obi-Wan. I think I want to bring in Jedi Master Luke as well.
Yeah.
It's just really good. I gotta bring in Yoda.
Oh, of course.
It's really hard to not bring Yoda in. Okay, so that's 4.
Okay, I'll bring it back. So I've got Jedi Master Luke, and I've got Jedi Starkiller, Light Side Starkiller. I'm going. This is so cheap, bro. I'm going Kyle Katarn. I'm going Jedi Battle Master Kyle Katarn, the right-hand man of Luke Skywalker. And listen, out of just sheer reverence and love for my boy, I'm going Jedi Knight, Caleb Doom, Kanan Jarrus himself. It just has to happen.
We gotta have the Nepo baby in there.
What? That's crazy.
I'm just kidding. It's the favoritism.
He's my Nepo baby.
Yeah, because I mean, like
technically Luke is a kind of a Nepo baby though. Like in universe, like Luke and Leia.
Oh, 100%. Like in terms of force prowess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, where am I at? Redeemed Revan, Episode 3 Obi-Wan, Master Luke, Master Yoda. The last 2 I'm gonna do. This is actually gonna be this is gonna be a crazy 2 picks actually.
Yeah.
Ahsoka the White.
Ooh, yeah, dude.
And surprise pick, Mara Jade.
Dude, yes, yeah, Jedi Mara Jade.
Yeah, dude, I don't know which syndicate these guys are, but they better like get out, bro. I don't.
You got the squad,
dude. You just took my my Animal Crossing farm. Apparently, like this is I don't know what's on this farm, but I'm packing heat when I show up.
You're like, let me make some calls, dude.
Make some calls.
Okay. So I've got Kyle, Kanan, Luke, and Starkiller. Dude. This is tough, man. I want to choose this person, but we haven't seen enough of her as a Jedi, but I feel like there's some versions of her where she is like really good, and I just kind of want to have her there, but I'm just not sure. So I'm gonna hold out onto that just for now.
I'm wondering who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think I'm also choosing Mara Jade.
Heck yeah.
Only because, and this is my first time telling you this, I've spread this story. Timothy Zahn gave me permission to use Mara Jade in my tabletop campaign.
What?
Yeah, I told him about my whole plan, and he was like, "You could make that work." He's like, "But just so you know, if your players get into a fight with her, they're going to lose." And I was like,
that's so cool.
I'm like, I'm already on it. So I got blessing from Timothy Zahn himself, the creator of Mara Jade.
That's so awesome, man. I have to meet him. I really do.
Dude, I got 7 or 8 things signed by him. He does signatures for free, dude.
What?
For free. There's no reason he needs to do that, bro. I would have paid him. Whatever.
What a guy. What a guy.
He's awesome. I bought some books from him and stuff. The 6th pick, dude. So I want to go 2 routes with this. I'm not really sure because one is not, he's not a Jedi. He's not. And so I guess I can't go with him. I really wanted to go the Ronin from Visions.
I say go for it.
You think so? He's an ex-Sith.
So I think that even though the card says Jedi, like,
well, I guess you went with Ahsoka the White. You know, she's kind of
like former Jedi, and then I don't know, man.
You want to hear my rival pick?
Yeah, go ahead.
My rival pick is Jedi Master General Ram Koda.
Oh yeah, I had a feeling you would choose Ram. Okay, you have to have Kanan and Ram on the same team.
It is pretty sick.
That's a cool team.
But now here was the character that I wanted to have, and she does become a Jedi in canon. And dude, you know what? Listen, I'm sorry, Ram. I'm sorry, Ronan. But I gotta have another lady on the team.
Yeah.
I'm choosing Jedi Leia.
Oh, let's go. That's great.
Because Listen, Jedi Leia was mopping the floor with Luke. All right, bro. I'm like, they wanted to train her. So shout out to these guys. It's Enamel Empire. We met them at ICCC. They have a series of pins where it's different Jedi making their lightsabers, right? Will got the Luke one. So it's Luke. He is a holocron of old Ben, and he's making his green lightsaber, like putting the pieces together. But they have 2 different Leia ones. They've got a young Leia, and then they've got an older Leia. And the older one is her fixing the Skywalker saber with a hologram of Luke, Return of the Jedi Luke, because to remember how to build it. And it's her, and she's got the broken pieces, and she's putting the crystal back into it.
That's so good, dude.
I'm a Leia. So yeah, I mean, listen, I love the Ronin. I love Coda, but like, I want the Skywalker twins in there, dude. Like, plus Mara Jade, bro. Plus Kanan. I mean, yeah, that's
a good choice. So so I have come up with a insane B team. A B team of 6.
Let's do it. Let's do a B team.
That's gonna be coming up from the other side, and I'm doing this specifically because to imagine that this is like a Sinister 6 of these characters is so funny to me. So here is my team: Kazdan Paratus.
Oh my gosh!
Jarl Poof. Abba Rancisis. Coleman Trevor. Shaggy from Gendy's, and Amagundi from the Clone Wars.
Bro, you chose the most whack Jedi ever, bro.
They're not even gonna know what hit them.
Dude, I kind of want to do this is an entire episode in and of itself here, but you know what? There's probably one that you forgot that I'm sure you're probably punching the air. Maybe not. But, Cal Kestis, dude.
Oh, man.
That's the tough one, dude. Cal is like...
That would be a really good choice. I just really wanted Ahsoka and Mara in there.
Yeah, I feel you. That's the tough thing. I kind of want to make a secondary team. You know what? I'm going to make a secondary team. These are not B-list characters, but I'm not going to choose any ones that I've previously chosen. So
okay, well then I'll make one too.
Okay, all right. Why not? Okay. Everybody, I know this is entertaining to people.
Everybody, send us your team.
Please comment your 6.
Who's messing up this syndicate on the farm?
Yeah, dude. Like, what did they do? So number 1, I am choosing Rom Coda because he didn't make it into the last one, so I'm doing Coda. And we can do the 2x2. So it's Coda, and I'm gonna go Bastila. Bastila is my second pick.
That's a really good choice.
Yeah.
Okay, so for my first 2, I want to do. Let's see. We'll have Cal, and then the Jedi Temple Guard version of the Grand Inquisitor.
Ooh.
So when he's a Temple Guard, I wanna have him in there. So
okay. Yeah. So Temple Guard and Cal.
Who I guess I'm just gonna call the Grand Guard.
Ooh, I like that Grand Guard. Okay, very cool. I guess he kind of is in a way.
Yeah.
So I've got Coda and Bastila. I just thought of one and it just slipped my mind. Not Jaro. I do like Jaro Tapal, but not Jaro Tapal.
That's a good choice, though.
Oh, third pick. This is a kind of a sleeper pick here, bro. Kelleran Beck.
Oh man.
Yeah, dude. The sabered hand.
Yeah.
He's staring through those.
That's cool. Yeah, we'll have him in there.
Yeah. Number 4. I almost said Ezra, but I don't know about Ezra. I don't really know about Sabine either. Draw some inspiration here. I have to look at my walls and stuff. I'm gonna go Plo Koon.
Oh,
I love Plo. I'm gonna go Plo.
Good choice. Okay. So I've got Cal. I've got the Grand Guard. Mm-hmm. I think I want to go with Jedi Dooku.
Yes.
And Qui-Gon.
Okay. Is that your number? That's your 3 and 4?
Those are my 4. Yeah.
Okay. So I've got Coda. What? I'm already blanking. I've got Coda. I've got Bastila. I've got Plo, and I've got what was my 4th or my 3rd? Kelleran Beck.
Kelleran Beck. Yeah.
So Kelleran, Coda, Plo, and Bastila. For my last 2, pick some High Republic Jedi, I think.
Hey.
I think I'm gonna go. This is tough, but I think I'm gonna go with Avar Chris. She's pretty cracked, and I'm gonna go. Ooh, here's a sleeper pick that I really like from Visions. Oh, and I know one that you're probably one as well from Visions. I just thought about it, but I can pitch you after you do your last 2. But mine is gonna be Tajin from the Elder episode, the guy with the green lightsaber.
Very cool.
I really like him. If I didn't pick him, I would have done Elzar Man. But Elzar, he's a little bit more. He's more. He uses the Force in unconventional ways. But yeah, that's gonna be my B team 6. You know.
Okay.
Everybody else is sick. Those are my other guys.
So I have Cal. I've got Grand Guard. I picked Jedi Dooku, and then who was the other person that I picked? Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon, yeah. I could give you a hint of one that I feel like you're gonna want.
Go ahead.
I believe it's Juro from
the Ninth Jedi.
Ninth Jedi.
Okay,
the one
Juro's he's in there, man. That guy is so cool. He is elite.
Dude. It's insane.
And then the last pick I think will be Seer Junda.
What a great pick, dude.
Specifically from Jedi Survivor, because she's
the shaved head, dude.
So elite in that form,
dude. Cal and Seer together, kind of a crazy team, dude.
Really, really good stuff. So that will be my B team.
Perfect. All right,
that was a good card, man.
Dude, I know. When we're mixing in the canon and the legends, very nice. Well, that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching.
Yes.
Cole, where can they find you?
You can find me at the.cosmic.drifter on Instagram. I'm not really posting anything right now because I'm trying to kind of like reformat a couple stuff. If you really want to follow me, it can be there. But I would just recommend checking us out at Mortis FM as you have done so already. Yeah. You can. I'm. If you already follow my personal, I appreciate it. I'm now going to just kind of be posting all Star Wars centric things because I do run the social media. So if you want, I run like I do run it. I post things for the both of us, but you can follow me at Mortis FM. That's all you really need to know. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube if you're watching on there, or if you're on Spotify, please rate and follow. And yeah, go follow our Instagram and TikTok because we post some reels on there. Keep in touch with our upcoming things that we're going to do. We're going to be having some things coming up in the future, and then also as we had mentioned before, if you are interested in seeing us publicize our gameplay of the Old Republic, please let us know because we're gonna do it anyway. So if you want to see us, let us know.
Sweet.
But yeah, I think that's it.
That's the way the news goes. Cole.
Well,
who talks first?
Who talks first?
You talk. Well, why don't you do the honors?
Grayson, as always. ... May the Force be with you.
Yes.